We're going to start off this episode by looking at a quickie tour. So this is a cockpit of the boat, right? Nothing really much to scream about here. It's like a bathtub cockpit like the boat in Scotland was, pretty much. Meaning water can't just drain out, so that means I've got scuppers in the form of holes in the deck. Those are drains. There's 4 of them. Okay. And heading downstairs. I will just be quiet and let you look. Future navigation station. You see there's no cushions. This would be called the pilot berth or the settee. That needs a mattress as well. That blue thing in the back is just a foamy camping mattress, a camping pad. That's where I sleep. I sleep on the pad right now. That's all we have. Above it is a top bunk, but as you can see, that's used for general storage. It's going to be the tool bench, the workbench. It's also going to be my stand-up desk for my office. And that's going to be their permanent function, workshop and office. Across the way, the table is not yet secured to the deck, and it is heavy. So that is a must fix before I go to sea, or I just have to lie it down on the floor and tie it down. You can see the pile of old cushions. They're on the way to the dumpster. And this area here would be a bench seat. You can see that wooden thing, that's a slide, and this piece, the light colored piece of wood, that draws out like a drawer, and it drops down over this rail, this catch, and that would make it a double bed. So this boat is capable of having 2 double beds, 1 single bed, and a bunk bed. Going further forward, the hanging lockers, some drawer space on the bottom, some more drawer space behind the green coat. I won't bother unhooking the door yet. Over here is going to be a berth. This would typically be considered the master berth. And this mattress is going to go in the trash as well. I'll have to get a new one, I know, but in the bow of the boat, where the V berth usually is on most boats, what I have is a sit-down shower. So see where the stickers were? That's where your backside goes when you take a shower. It has a traditional head, the manual pump out style, which means there's probably a holding tank. I suspect the holding tank is probably under this berth, probably underneath it. I haven't even looked yet. We'll be replacing that with a composting head again. But I think the composting head I bought before physically won't fit, so I need to do some measuring and some figuring. You know, and that's really it. So now we're facing. The galley is to the port side of the entryway. Again, that's a nav station, a very good nav station. A lot of space, and it's going to have a big chart table, almost as big as my boat in Scotland. The only thing I don't like is a black Formica, but we can change that stuff one day. The engine is behind the stairs. There's a hatch in the deck. You can see the hinges in there and there. That lifts up to provide access to the engine. We'll take a look at that in this episode. And what we have here is a beer, but the 2 hatches, those plugs lift out, okay, and that is a refrigerator / freezer, okay, and on this side, the same thing. But the cooling mechanism is only on this one. So this one I think is intended to actually be a freezer, but it does not seem capable of freezing because this hasn't frozen yet. And on the far side is more like a chill box. That'd be the fridge side. And so we're going to do our thinking about that. It is just so big. I don't know that I want a refrigerator freezer that takes up so much space. I mean, it's enormous. But again, our focus is on getting underway. We'll deal with that some other day. That's a propane fired stove. There's a microwave. And some dry storage here. And under this thing is more dry storage. And a lot of people put their pots and pans and just whatever else you might come up with. Pretty big space there. Probably as boats go, I would give this an A+ for storage in the galley. Not quite laid out the way I would want it in a perfect world, but it's all right. It's all right. It'll be just fine. Well, all boats that are low in the price range have issues. And I found the big issue with this boat, and it's the DC electric system. I thought it was odd because there's 4 different batteries on the boat, 4 batteries in different locations, which tells you that there's been add-ons and stuff like that. And when you get add-ons and things like that, you don't know how well they've been done. You just don't know. Well, now we know. We're figuring there had been a battery explosion or a fire, you know, and we think maybe the damage was due to the battery fluid and acid getting in. Hang on a sec. Yeah, so this is a seat under the nav station, which I would say is a normal place to put battery boxes. But look what we got here. The wooden deck was pretty badly destroyed. And I don't know if it's connected to the fact that they have additional batteries, but it looks pretty bad. So you take a close look at that piece of plywood and tell me if that looks like it's been burned. Perhaps related, perhaps not. A bunch of the deck was sealed with these pieces of silicone rubber, big blocks of it, you know. There was more silicone down there and a set of fake boobs. And the light will adjust. So you can see there's part of the floor, this section here, which is gone. That's what's sitting in the cockpit floor. You can see also there's some white acidic residue on the formica. And so we know the formica is really tough, but down the bottom, the formica actually got chewed up. So we know what it takes to finally destroy old formica. And even worse, so this beam here, at the end of my finger, is got some pretty bad rot. So we're gonna have to excise that down about 1 inch or so. Same with that beam here. They're both pretty badly rotted on the top 1/2 inch or so, and I haven't dug all that out. I'm gonna go probably buy a multi-tool and just cut it out. That'd be the smart way. It will build it up and probably sister it up and make a epoxy repair. Then we'll build a tray to take the new batteries, and then we're going to start marching forward. The remainder of this deck is going to be cut back to about 2 inches back from this wall. So, because this deck is never going to serve a function anymore, because the new deck for the battery is going to be higher in elevation. The cover is above the water tank on the starboard side. Only the one cover above the port side tank. That's the tank itself. That is a built-in fiberglass tank. I believe it is separately created, but is dropped in there, and they built the furniture around it. So to remove the tank would mean destroying the furniture. The thick hose at the back is the tank fill line, and the thin hose is a tank vent. What I don't know is where is the tank outlet. I suspect that that's down at the bottom on the aft end of the tank. Okay, so what I've learned about solar panels in the first hour is that how you physically attach them is strictly up to the user. They sell installation kits, but they don't know when they make these panels whether you're going to be installing them on a boat, on a rooftop, on an RV. They just don't know. So the responsible boater has to figure out a way to make it happen. So you can see I use this red string to tie the panel in position. I have little magic marker marks made on the stainless steel tubing. I attached this orange fiberglass. It's like 1/8 inch by 1 inch strips to go sideways, and that's actually what I'm attaching to. And we'll just see. We'll make the best adjustments that I can. And these frames are just angle aluminum, so I'm sure that if I come to an obstacle like these buckles, that maybe I could just bend if I had to. So in my case, the goal is to get 4 of these one here and one there, and then one more over here. A total of 4 panels installed, and they'll actually become a sun protection for me as well. So that's the plan. But first I'm going to finish this beer that my friend Mike just gave me. So it's cool. Okay, one oddity is this television set itself. It's powered by only shore power by 120 volt AC, and I'm like, oh my god. So that's something. I mean, it's okay, it's fine, but you have to run it off of an inverter, and I'd have to get a big enough inverter to run it. I don't know how many amps it draws. And so here's the oddity of it is the previous owner owned the boat for about 1.5 years, and I believe we're looking at the only so-called improvement they made to the boat. They bought the television. You know, they should have been maintaining a diesel, or they should have been doing lots of other jobs. And another thing, this bulkhead itself. So underneath that, it looks like wood. And you're correct. They painted over these bulkheads with white house paint. It comes off quite easily. So this area was 100% painted white, and I scraped almost all of it off. I have to get the paint stripper to maybe get the thin parts out. But 100% of the nav station area had been coated with that stuff. Anytime you see the white residue, because that's where they had holes drilled, and so that's harder to scrape out, and I'm not too interested in it. That just tells me where, if I want to drill a hole, it's no worries. But I scraped off already on this back bulkhead here. You know, I've already scraped off the white paint. And so that'll be an ongoing project as you are with me on this boat. You know, things like this, you're eventually going to see, you know, the white behind the sink and the white on the drawer faces. You know, that'll eventually, you'll see that going away little by little. And one thing that's true, you can't take your electric power with you. So this boat is currently, you can see my laptop is plugged into shore power. That receptacle is only energized if the panel is energized. Now I could get a generator and I could backfeed that and I can energize while I'm underway, but I don't want to buy a generator. I want to live on solar power. So when you have solar power and battery power as your only source of power, well then you're reliant on small devices like this. This is an inverter. It's a power inverter. This is only 300 watts, sufficient to charge laptops. It's sufficient to charge my battery operated tools. So that is pretty darn handy. And I'm one of the side projects is to get this one semi-permanently mounted, probably by another small inverter, and keep it over by the nav station, because I want to be able to charge my iPad. No, I'm going to be powering up these USB connectors too to charge them. So that's my iPad charges. In the galley, port side, behind the locker, what we got here? We got 2 hoses. This is electric cord. That's electric cord right there. So ignore that. That's for the power outlet, 120 volts. This one is the fill line for the diesel fuel tank, and that's the vent line for the diesel fuel tank. And this locker is currently empty because it's going to turn into a construction zone. And it'll be turning into a construction zone because up on deck, this is the way you fill the diesel fuel tank. Oh my god, what a fucking mess. Yeah, and this is the way you fill the diesel fuel tank. You unscrew this cap in the center, and that's that. The only rub is that that cap cannot be unscrewed. I have tried everything short of absolute destruction and cannot get that thing out. So we're probably going to end up having to replace the entire fitting. Pop those 3 screws out, separate the hose down below. Okay, so what you can see is that they drilled this hole too big. The fitting that goes through was left about 1/8 of an inch of gap all the way around, and because of where the holes are on the flange of the fitting, which I'll show you in a moment, because of the placement of those holes, there's really very little material for the screw to get purchase on. So what I'm going to do is build up this inside edge with epoxy. Probably use JB Weld because it has thicker consistency. So, good morning, and thank you for watching the episode. As a summary, what we have on hand here is about 3 more weeks worth of work. I've been given about a month reprieve here in the marina, so I can stay for the entire month of June until early July, and then I have to leave. And that's cool. The work remaining. Let's talk about work completed. Sails, pretty much done. I have to clean up one little tiny item, but that's it. On the main sail, but the sails go up and down. This is a cutter rig, and we have the stay sail installed now. Navigation lights work. Engine works. This boat could go right now like it had to. Work I'd like to do before we go, I need to get the DC electrical system sorted out, because right now I would not be able to charge an iPad, which is where my electronic charts are, and I will not be able to charge batteries, and I'll need those for my rechargeable batteries that go with my handheld GPS. So I'm sailing with a handheld GPS and with paper charts. That's all I'm going to go with. I'll have my iPad as a backup. So I need DC power, and I don't have DC power right now. I need to do the engine maintenance. The engine runs great. This is a Perkins 4.108 engine, and it's famous throughout the boating and sailing industry as one of the best engines to have. You know, just maybe as a trooper, you could pour cooking oil into these things and they'll run. Unfortunately, the previous owner neglected the engine, and there really was no maintenance done over the previous year and a half. So you can imagine what that looks like in terms of strainers and filters and hoses, and yeah, so all those replaceables need to be replaced. But otherwise it's good, so I'm not too worried about the engine. I haven't got my anchor situation sorted out, and that's about it. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. I'll get another video out before I shove off. Thanks. Bye. Yeah, and one other thing we're working on the boat is one other thing. What the hell am I working on?